When I first saw the headlines about Jeff Bezos' wedding to Lauren Sanchez in Venice, well, I sort of figured it was just another huge celebrity spectacle.
Right, another lavish party.
Exactly. But diving into our sources for this, it became pretty clear there was so much more happening, behind the scenes than just the glitz. Wasn't there?
Absolutely. Much more.
So today we're really going to dig into that. The opulence, sure, but also the immense wealth involved and the incredibly strategic planning that made this event really far more than just a wedding. It was, in many ways, a masterclass in calculated moves, both public and private.
It's truly remarkable, isn't it, how this union seemed to combine this, grand romantic display with some exceptionally shrewd financial and legal maneuvering.
Yeah.
We're going to try and pull back the curtain on, everything. From the staggering price tag and that star-studded guest list to the quieter legal stuff that happened off stage, and even the very public reactions at Stark. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, definitely. So what does this all mean for you listening?
Well, by the end of this deep dive, you should have a really crystal clear picture of the most important insights from, our stack of sources here.
Yeah, kind of a shortcut.
Exactly, a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed about this frankly fascinating union. Let's get into it.
Okay.
So, the relationship itself between Jeff Bezos, who's 61 now, and Lauren Sanchez, 54, it actually started back in 2018.
Right, though the news really broke in early 2019.
Yes, right around the time Bezos announced his divorce from Mackenzie Scott. Their courtship was certainly high profile.
Very.
Remember the 2023 engagement on that huge $500 million yacht?
Can't forget that one.
So this Venetian celebration, it wasn't just a party. It felt like a strategic culmination. A 6-year relationship sort of crescendoing into this very public declaration.
Setting a new gold standard for maybe billionaire branding.
Could be. And it's worth noting, this is the second marriage for both of them, which is significant. And a key element here is that this wasn't just one event, right? It was this sprawling 3-day Venetian extravaganza.
3 days.
Held mainly on that stunning island, Giorgio Maggiore.
Beautiful spot.
And the cost estimates, they vary wildly. I mean, sources throw out numbers from a jaw-dropping $10 million all the way up to potentially an incredible $600 million.
$600 million. That's hard to even grasp.
It is. And to give you a sense of the scale, sources indicate around 90 private jets flew guests in.
90?
90 private jets for guests, with maybe 97 planes used in total for logistics.
Wow.
And Lauren Sanchez herself, apparently she wore 27 dresses over the festivities.
27 dresses.
Just one gown for the rehearsal dinner alone reportedly cost $100,000.
Okay. The scale is just immense. And the guest list for this event, it really did read like a who's who, didn't it?
Absolutely. About 200 guests, roughly.
Yeah, you had names like Bill Gates, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kim and Khloe Kardashian, Oprah Winfrey.
Orlando Bloom, Ivanka Trump, Tom Brady, the list goes on.
It does. And Venice itself was, essentially transformed into a fortress, as some reports put it. Huge security measures.
You can imagine.
Which, must have caused quite a stir. Locally, there were actually protests over the environmental impact, all those jets.
Yeah, with the disruption.
Yeah, and the sheer disruption. I read reports, maybe jokingly, maybe not, of locals filling canals with inflatable crocodiles.
Huh. You have to admire the creativity, I suppose.
You do, even if it underscores some pretty serious frustration, doesn't it?
That's a fantastic point. And speaking of statements, maybe the most striking one was actually legal, or rather the lack of legal groundwork for this very public ceremony.
What do you mean?
Well, this spectacular Venice event, surprisingly, it might not even be legally recognized under Italian law.
Really? Why not?
Because the couple reportedly didn't apply for a marriage license there in Italy.
Huh. So that raises a big question then.
Yeah.
Why have such an elaborate, incredibly public display if the legal marriage happened elsewhere?
Exactly. And our sources suggest that the wedding was preceded by a secret legal marriage back in the United States, reportedly about a month prior. And that step seems crucial primarily to get a prenuptial agreement locked down.
The prenup. Right. That legal contract specifying how assets are handled.
Precisely. But beyond the legalities, the Venice event, it had all the trimmings, right? Foam party on the yacht, lavish goodie bags for guests.
I saw Sanchez even subtly confirm the marriage by changing her Instagram bio.
A modern confirmation.
So while Venice was, awash in romance and spectacle, the real masterclass, as we kind of hinted at earlier, it really lies in the numbers, doesn't it? The financial planning.
Absolutely. Let's get into that.
Jeff Bezos, his net worth is estimated somewhere between, what, 224 and $244 billion as of mid-2025.
Roughly, yeah. Making him the world's fourth richest person.
And that immense wealth tied up in Amazon, Blue Origin, the Washington Post, it obviously necessitated some exceptionally careful thinking for this second marriage.
Especially considering his first divorce.
Exactly. That divorce from Mackenzie Scott was one of history's most expensive. Cost him $38 billion in Amazon stock.
Ouch.
So that experience, you have to assume, clearly informed the approach this time around.
This is where the strategic significance really comes into sharp focus. Learning from that first, very costly divorce, Bezos reportedly signed a historic prenuptial agreement with Sánchez.
Historic, okay, to protect that vast fortune.
Precisely. Legal experts suggest this ensures his pre-marriage assets, crucially including his Amazon shares, remain separate property.
Makes sense.
The agreement likely includes clauses covering, how asset appreciation during the marriage is handled and provisions for what happens in case of divorce or death.
Standard for the ultra-wealthy, maybe, but on this scale.
Exactly. While prenups are standard at that level, this really offers the ultimate insight into high-stakes financial planning. For the ultra-wealthy, the legal architecture before the public party is absolutely paramount.
Especially when you're learning from a $38 billion lesson, as you said.
Absolutely. And just for context, Lauren Sanchez's estimated net worth is reportedly between $30 and $50 million.
Which is significant money, of course.
But it profoundly underscores the protective nature of that prenup, doesn't it?
It really does. Now, this wedding, it certainly wasn't without its controversies. And this is where the public reaction really comes into play. The timing, for one, it coincided with reports of, well, massive layoffs at Amazon.
Right, that didn't go unnoticed.
No. Critics were pretty quick to highlight the stark contrast, Bezos' personal spending, with a wedding budget potentially in the hundreds of millions.
While the company was cutting costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It truly begs the question of balance, doesn't it? Or maybe the tension between corporate actions and these huge personal displays of wealth.
Indeed. And the environmental footprint, too, particularly those 90 private jets, that also drew strong criticism.
And the local protests in Venice you mentioned.
Yes. Plus, the whole transformation of the city into a high-security zone, disrupting daily life. It all fueled this public debate about, well, billionaire excess.
And online. What were the reactions like there?
Definitely mixed. Some people celebrated the love story, the spectacle. Others were sharply critical of the extravagance, the timing.
So it sparked broader conversations.
For sure. About wealth protection, fairness in these high net worth marriages, responsibility.
Okay, so when we look at the entire marriage process, stepping back a bit, it really seems like this meticulous blend of romance and strategy.
That sums it up well.
It started with the engagement back in May 2023. Then, crucially, that secret U.S. marriage.
Reportedly about a month before Venice.
Right, specifically to formalize that prenup under U.S. law. That ensured the legal clarity before the grand symbolic celebration in Italy.
That's exactly right. The Venice wedding itself, that 3-day celebration from June 26 to 28, 2025, that seems designed purely as the spectacle.
No expense spared.
No expense spared on venues, attire, guest experiences, you name it. But the prenup, that profoundly significant agreement, was indeed finalized before the U.S. marriage, protecting Bezos' assets.
It sounds like the celebrations aren't even over yet.
Apparently not. Reports suggest another lavish bash is planned somewhere else.
Wow, okay.
So as we kind of bring this deep dive toward a close, what really stands out, I think, is how this marriage uniquely exemplifies that blend we talked about. Grand romance, sure, but also immense wealth and remarkably astute financial strategy.
Yeah.
It's almost like a blueprint for high net worth unions in the 21st century.
And for you listening, maybe the key takeaways are clear now. First, just the unprecedented scale of that Venetian wedding.
Mind-boggling number.
Right. Costs maybe $10 million, maybe $600 million, 90 private jets, Lauren Sanchez's 27 dresses. Second, the huge strategic significance of that historic prenuptial agreement protecting Bezos' $244 billion fortune.
A very clear lesson learned from his $38 billion divorce from Mackenzie Scott.
Definitely. And third, those intriguing contrasts highlighted by the public reaction, the timing with the Amazon layoffs, the environmental protests in Venice.
And don't forget that distinct two-part marriage process.
Right.
The secret legal marriage in the U.S., almost certainly for the prenup, followed by the lavish Venetian ceremony, which, as we noted, might not even be legally recognized in Italy because they apparently didn't get a license there.
Such a fascinating structure. So here's maybe a final thought for you to consider. Given everything we've discussed, the meticulous planning, the massive financial protections, the intense public scrutiny, what does a marriage on this scale really tell us about, the intersection of personal relationships, corporate influence, and just vast wealth in the 21st century?
It's a big question.
It is. And how do we balance celebration with public accountabilities, especially when a personal event, like a wedding, generates such a massive environmental and, well, social footprint?
Lots to think about there.
We certainly hope this deep dive has given you plenty to chew on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring these complex topics, and we'll catch you next time.